Plaza 2000.
Yeah. 9:38. Let's head into the Zoom room where Senator Frank Blas Jr., Republican, joins us. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Bree. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Senator.
Right on. Thanks for popping on. I guess we'll just start with session yesterday, as there was a little bit of some happening at the beginning of the session, Senator.
Yeah, well, what had happened was we had resolved into the Committee of the Whole, and we had the Deputy Director of DOA, Ms. Guinness, and Daphne Shimizu, Director of Revenue and Tax, that was there to begin to take on some questions that the body may have had. And then the chair, Senator Clint, had said he had apologized. He wanted to give Senator Sabina Paris an opportunity to read a statement provided by the speaker, who unfortunately, wasn't able to make session yesterday, but wanted to read her statement onto the record. And there were some, I guess, there were some things that were said in the statement that, first off, it was supposed to have been a statement to explain how we got to this point, how we got to that point, with regard to Bill 130 and eventually public law. But it further expanded into other remarks. I mean, other sentiments that were being expressed, and that I was a little, I don't want to say confused. I was just a little taken aback at. Well, okay, wait a minute. We're here to explain and to try to just take care of the error that occurred in Bill 130, but it appears that the statement suggests going a little bit further. And I wanted to, before we can start any round of questioning, is I wanted a copy of what was written, what was being read. The legal counsel had determined that the body was not privy to a copy of the statement, but then I said, but it was read into the record, so I want a copy, a transcript of what was being read into the record, because there were comments and there were things that were said in there that I think that the body would need to be able to deliberate on. This is a deliberative body, and why we're moving, and it appears that we want to move into something further, is not what this body was called to do. And I wanted to question. I wanted to ask questions, or to make sure that my colleagues had the opportunity to ask some questions based on the statements that were made. And so we went on recess, because since I can't get a copy of what was being read, we have to get it. We need a transcript of it, what was read into the record. So the clerks had to go back, look at it, go through the tapes, and transcribe the statement. And that's what we're going to be using when we go back into session tomorrow.
Do you have that transcript, Manager?
No, we don't have that transcript yet. I'm hoping that sometime, and then today being a holiday for the government, I don't know if there's any of the clerks at the legislature that are working to be able to provide it. But I do know we go back in tomorrow at 1:00.
Yeah, I'm reading the story, and a part of what Senator Paris read was, notwithstanding the corrective actions we've taken on this measure, the Speaker has led efforts and has been supportive of efforts to expand eligibility of war claims to survivors who died before the arbitrary cutoff date of December 23rd, 2016. But you're saying she said a lot more than that?
Well, that, and first off, we went into the session yesterday for the purpose of correcting the language that was placed in error.
Yeah.
In the bill that was transmitted by the governor and eventually signed. Okay, that was not the intent of the legislature, the language there. And so what we were going to go in there was just remove that language.
Yeah.
Okay, it should have been something very simply done, and we could have been out of there in about an hour. But you know, when you got to make a statement like that, and then you say, well, you know, despite this is what else, you know, we'd like to do. That goes against the grain, goes against what we were supposed to do, what we had intended to do.
Right.
And so that needed to be addressed.
Right. So,
And I can't address it if I, you know, if especially if it's normally if somebody wants to read something onto the record, you know, as is done in public hearing stuff, we'll get a copy of it. Okay. This was clearly a statement that was going to be read into the record. If this was something that Frank Blas had written so that when Frank Blas makes his own, you know, when he makes his own presentation, okay, that's me talking about, and I'm using those as my notes. This, in fact, was a statement that was read onto the record, and I wanted a copy of it.
it's interesting too because prior to session, there was a bill that was introduced. I believe it was Bill 220 by Senator Amanda Shelton and the authors of the original bill,
Right.
Vice Speaker Tina Mooney Barnes and Senator James Moylan. What do you make of that bill? Because it kind
Well, you know, I quite haven't, I haven't read the bill. You know, that said, though, is if that be, you know, what those sponsors, those authors would like to be able to deliberate, then it's going through that. You know, it's going through the normal legislative process. Introduce a bill, set it, you know, let it go to committee, let the committee put together a hearing, you know, and then let it take its course from there. But for even that bill to have an impact on what we needed to do with this bill, that would not have been, in my opinion, that would not have been germane to what we needed to do yesterday, what we intended to do. So that would have been first off a moot point, because that would have to go through the process of you know, bill making and legislation. So you know, I don't know, you know, what the intent was of the authors of and I find it quite interesting that it also is the same authors of this legislation that we're now trying to correct. Okay. So, but you know, we'll have that conversation when that conversation is to be had. But it's not to be had in this in the deliberation of this bill.
Yeah, I was just confused because I thought we were trying to correct this
Yes.
issue,
Yep.
which we are, and then here comes this new bill, which is like, we just want to pay everybody.
which was in the
Yeah.
error bill, right?
Yeah. So this new bill is like the error bill. I mean, the error law.
But with a funding source.
But with a funding source.
True. And you know, when you're talking about the funding source, you know, and you know, first off, the $150 million, that's the assumption that everybody, first off, that there's only 15,000, you know, claimants, and secondly, that only the 15,000 claimants are only going to get the minimum claim amount. That's not inclusive of the other claims that could be made by, you know, the same individual. You could have had a war survivor who had a family member who was tortured, you know, and then killed. So that will be, you know, an amount plus another amount plus another amount. And if you have multitudes of that, $150 million is not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. And then get to the point of, okay, where's this money going to come from? And that needs to be discussed. You know, it needs to be, you know, bring in the folks from the administration and go through the numbers and, you know, and see whether or not this is in fact something that's feasible and if it can be done. Amongst the other conversations about whether or not, you know, this, you know, are we going to take on this responsibility again? This is something that the United States government should be taking on. We've forgotten a lot, you know, of where this whole discussion came from. You know, years and years ago when it was first passed, the Warcliffe bill was first passed in Congress. We were given the assurances that placing it or using Section 30 monies was just that language was just a placeholder, and that it was necessary to have that language as placeholder so that we could continue the discussion, but it was not the intent to have Section 30 monies be the funding source for this. Then all of a sudden it is, and now we're gonna. So at the end of the day, we're gonna get permission we were getting permission from the federal government to use our money to pay what they were supposed to pay. Using our money, and it's gonna continue, and then we're gonna continue on with this with this new process, with this new idea.
But as far as you're concerned, there's no way that Bill 220 can be discussed during this session, right? Because there's been no public hearing. There's no way. Okay.
No, and then just the amount alone, okay, that will be necessary. Okay, I mean, you're talking, in excess of, again, based on the bill that we're trying to fix, okay, that figure is close to $10 million. Okay, what 220 proposes is now something in excess of $150 million. All right, with a different funding source. See, in this bill, the funding source was going to be the excess of Section 30. The monies that were basically that the federal government had basically taken from what we deemed to be excess of Section 30 and using that money to be able to pay the war claims. This bill, the other bill, apparently, is going to be using not just Section 30, but another funding source. So that in itself would you need to be able to have to go through that whole process to include a fiscal review.
Okay. Yeah, but it's Senator Shelton, Vice Speaker, and Senator Jim Moylan, and I mean, these guys have had measures before that just get rammed through, so you sure you're not concerned that
it's not the 35th Guam legislature? And I think that they're finding that out real quick. Okay. And if they have the votes to be able to do this, then so be it. It's a deliberative, and it's a process that needs 8 votes. And if they've got the 8 votes, no matter what Frank Blas says, or no matter how much Frank Blas puts up in contention, if I don't, if I make a motion and it fails, it fails. It moves on. And that's the arena that I work in, and that's why I got to continue to work and to bring these issues up to light, and hopefully that, at one point in time, even yesterday, my request to go on to recess so that we can get the transcript, so we can have the clerks transcribe what was said. There was objection to that. If I didn't garner enough votes to be able to move on my motion, it would have been a different story.
Right. A quick question: why would you guys need to go into the committee of the whole?
It's because it's an appropriations bill.
Okay. Even if it's just the same bill?
Even if it's the same thing, you still need to be able to, you still have to go through that process, and that's where you can make because one of the other things too, we wanted the committee of the whole is, we wanted an explanation as to how we got there.
I see.
Okay? Which was what the statement that was written, or that was read into record, was supposed to provide. Unfortunately, what happened was that it provided much more. That was, first off, okay, what does that got to do with the price of Tang and Happy Mart? And secondly, what does it got to do with the bill? Okay, and that needed to be separated out. Okay, and the place to do that, the committee of the whole.
I kind of wanted to ask you before we let you go about the public hearing on the LEAP bill. It was Senator Amanda Shelton. The public hearing yesterday was for her bill, but no public hearing, I don't think, has been scheduled yet for your bill. But you kind of snuck it in, it seemed like, when you were talking to Lester Carlson and the Transfer Authority, because your bill proposes 37.5, where Senator Shelton's proposes 20 million. Have you heard anything about when your bill will get a public hearing? And were you kind of surprised by Lester's response about having this extra transfer authority? It seemed like he...
Well, first off, I had to call the powers that be last week and says, "Where's my bill?" Because if there was an opportunity to have back-to-back hearings at the same time, with Bill 214 and 216, that would have been opportune, so that we can get if need be, if we can morph the measures of one bill into the other, so we can come up with a stronger piece of legislation, then great. I mean, that would truly help the business community, as well as help the government in being able to manage the resources so they can provide this help. That's what Bill 216 is able to provide. Albeit, yes, it asks for a little bit more, and as far as funding, it gives the governor the tools that, as was stated, yesterday by Lester, if we had more tools in the toolbox, we can do this better. Great. Here it is. Let's be able to do this. Again, at the end of the day, there's no there's no ill intent, with Frank Blas or any of the co-sponsors of Bill 216. This is, business community needs some help. The governor is willing to be able to provide, some help with the assistance of the legislature. I think as legislature, let's give the governor the tools to be able to do this. Okay? At the end of the day, when she signs this thing, it's not going to be, thanks to Frank Blas. It's going to be thanks to Lulu Young Girl. It doesn't, for me, what matters most is it gets the help to the community. Okay? That's what matters most to me. Not that it's no claim to fame. Even if you were to take the provisions of my bill and place it into your bill, guess his name's going to be at the top of the bill as it's transferred to the governor? Still the same people for 214. But it serves the purpose of what I was looking for. Right. And so yesterday, the conversation with Lester, when she's, although he couldn't be pegged down, he didn't want to be pegged down. And I understand. He didn't want to be pegged down to certain things, as he was asking for, extra tools. And this is what we give. And it's quite interesting that I know the conversations that we're having, the Elena Lata group, as well as other groups we're having with the governor, as well as with the legislature. And one of the things that the governor would constantly brought up in their discussions was, I would really like to be able to help, and I can do more to help you if, I was provided, given back some more of the transfer authority that the legislature took away. That said, okay, Governor, if this is what's going to help you, then okay. I'm going to sponsor that legislation along with 3 other individuals, so that we can give you those tools, so that you can make, so that you can provide this, so that there is no excuse. Oh, we didn't have the authority to be able to do this. Lester brought up a point yesterday based on what on the transfer authority that the governor has right now. Okay, she's got the ability to transfer about $30 million. So let's just take that if this bill passes. Okay, and she goes in and she uses that transfer authority, and she uses that $30 million. That leaves her with $5 million for the rest of the year to be able to take care of other government matters that may come about. Yeah. Okay, where my bill proposes to give her an extra $30 million, so that even if it's at 37.5, she still has that delta. She still has that extra funding that she can use to manage the government cash, and move the monies around. And we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, though, she's got a tool shed filled with $600 million worth of tools.
That's why it's funny to me. We're talking about all this transfer authority and bending over backwards to give the governor. Why are you guys trying to give her more authority? She has all the authority she needs.
The thing is, and I made it clear in the legislative tenet of the bill. It says, look, Governor, you provided comments that stated that, look, in the cases of where there are government shortfalls, you can fill those gaps with the ARP. Okay, first off, as a legislature, it's ARP as well as CARES and all that. That's hands off to us. I understand. Okay, so could that be the case then? Okay, Governor, uh, in this case here, you may be short in being able to provide this, and you said you're going to be able to backfill that with ARP. Okay, here you go. Here it is. But help the businesses.
Right.
That's what ARP, American Rescue Plan, that's to help the community get back up on its feet. It's not to help the government get back on its feet, it's to help the community get back on its feet. Nor is it to help the government grow. It's not a time to grow the government. Okay, you need to be able to help the community get back up on its feet, and that's what this is for.
Well, once you get a date on your public hearing, let us know. Good luck.
Yeah, I'll be over here. I'll be over here holding my breath.
Yeah, but don't hold on to the kilogram that long. It may spoil and it may grow legs and fly away.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Senator.
All right, you guys.
All right.
Have a great day.
All right,
You
you too. You too. Hey, it's 9:59. Let's go.
Let's go to the Department of
Thank you.
Corrections. We've got Tyler Mazzanoni